in Australia?
I usually come in at number one, but this year was a bit slow. No, I mean, I don't think I've been inside the top 100.
Is this your first time? Is this the highest you've ever been?
It's the highest I've ever been. It's the first week, so I'm thrilled. I was over there doing a lot of work, you know, sort of acoustic shows and doing lots of interviews. The record was 12 in one day in Dublin. They like to talk over there, you know.
So speaking of Dublin, I heard Hothouse Flowers were your backing band on a couple of tracks.
I was lucky enough, yeah. I met them in London one night, and we had a water pistol fight in Camden Town. It was a kind of baptism, instant kinship, and...
Did they show you around Dublin?
They did. They invited me over there. We had a wonderful time, played a lot of music. I mean, you can't help but do that in Dublin. It's such a musical city.
And they're big drinkers, the Irish.
Big drinkers.
So I'd be very interested to know exactly which sites they showed you, Tim.
Besides through the bottom of a good glass, yeah, I mean, Guinness is it's a particular feeling. It's like being underwater, different from any other experience I've ever had.
Now, there's a great story about you being with the boys out in the town in Dublin one night.
Yes.
And not being...
Well, we were thrown out of a club. It was called Mozart's. It was really tacky. There used to be this club in Melbourne called Bananas.
Do you remember Bananas?
You know, like...
My top venue, top venue.
If you ended up at Bananas at 3 in the morning, it was tragic, right? Always. Well, this was like that. And
Sea Quarry, remember Sea Quarry?
I did never go there, no. It was one of those kinky ones.
I was really worried because I was 13 and they used to let me in all the time. It's really real one. So what happened? You
we got thrown out, and then they realised who Liam was. Liam, the singer from the Flowers, of course, and he's a legend in Ireland. And they said, please, please, you know, they couldn't do enough for us, and they gave us the pint of Guinness and the Club Med cocktail with the umbrellas and the bits of fruit. And we stood there and rather enjoyed the juxtaposition.
What a nice way to put it. How many juxtapositions did you have, Tim?
Well, it was a great night, and we went home afterwards and just wrote this song. You know, it popped in, and it's called Many's the Time in Dublin.
And that's on this album.
Before and after.
The third plug, Tim Finn, before and after, and we don't know why. Tim hasn't worked it out yet. Now, you got some gigs.
Got some gigs
happening,
coming up.
Yeah. Now, they're the first gigs you've done in a while.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I haven't really toured solo in Australia for about 5 years, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going all over, really, but, you know, the main centres...
But your main gigs are this Friday, Saturday and Sunday at the Continental.
That's it,
Is that right? Yeah. And that'll be like an acoustic gig, yeah?
No, it'll be... I've got a band.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, someone told me it's Tim Finn Unplugged or something.
Well, no, we're going to plug in, and we've got this throbbing band that's just waiting to unleash itself.
What do you think of those Unplugged albums?
Well, I think the idea of acoustic music is great, you know. There's so much produced music and packaged music. It's nice to have that. But they seem to be queuing up now. You've got to be a bit of a legend to even get on the show.
Personally, I'm really glad Eric Clapton brought one out, because now I finally understand all the lyrics to Layla. It's the first time I ever understood them. OK, listen, we've got to go to a break. Hang around. You're going to hang around?
Yeah, I'll be here.
OK, terrific. Thank you, Cole, Kerry. We'll be back right across Australia.
Thank you.
And all the very best. OK, we've got Karen. Thanks very much for coming in and telling us all about the Workaway Guide. And we've got a phone number if anyone's interested in buying the book. It's on your screens right now, and you can call that number and get a copy of Workaway Guide straight away. Don't call us, we'll bill you. OK, you get a...
And bylined in no time flat.
And we'll have the books ready for you in 3 days. Thank you.
Cost about $5 a book. Money well spent in Karen Halliday's case. Her backpacker's guide to working overseas, snubbed by mainstream publishers, sells like hotcakes for $19.95.
Everyone who does a book has a right to have it produced, as long as it doesn't hurt someone.
And it's nothing to do with vanity or exploiting egos, says Pat, in righteous defence of a growing pile of obscure titles by widely unknown authors.
Some of them, except for us, would not exist.
So, fellow bards, fish into that pile of rejection slips. The great Australian novel may yet see light of day.
I'd like 100, please.
Okay, so your job's become a bit routine. You keep picturing yourself in faraway places, but you can't afford to give up work to take a long holiday. Well, there is an alternative. Last year, around 50,000 Australians headed overseas for work, and for many, it's the most economical way to see another country. Now, don't get swept away by the romance of it all. It is hard work and often for little pay, but we've found a few jobs that should make your trip more fun. If you're planning a break in the Greek Isles, Australians are in great demand by the local accommodation houses who want you to greet tourists at the ferries and bring them back to stay. In return, you'll receive free board and maybe even a little pocket money. In most cases, you'll be recruited by the hotels when you first arrive, Otherwise, approach them yourself. Or maybe your own travels have prepared you to help show other people around Europe, Asia or Africa. Top Deck Travel employs 23 to 30-year-olds as tour guides. You can apply before you leave Australia, and if you're considered suitable, you'll be sent on a training trip, but you will need to be prepared to commit for at least 2 years. If life at sea is more your style, most cruise ships have a number of jobs for keen young workers. Everything from hairdressers to shopkeepers and activity organisers. But be warned, this is not the lifestyle for everyone. There's not much privacy, your living area is small, and there's no getting off if you're not enjoying yourself. Write to a number of cruise companies well before the start of your holiday and be prepared to wait a long time for a reply. If this is your first big trip overseas, then it's wise to get as much help as possible. The Student Work Abroad program helps young people travel to Europe, Asia and America with packages that include airfares, temporary accommodation and advice on how to find a job. But how successful you are finding work all depends on you, according to seasoned traveller Karen Halliday.
Make sure you take away your Australian bravado. I think persistence beats resistance, and be confident. Even if you feel you might not be able to do the job, say you can, you'll get away with it 9 times out of 10.
And if you need any more tips about working overseas, then grab a copy of Karen's Workaway Guide. It's full of helpful hints from people who've done it all themselves.
Coming up, Mia.
Hi, how are you going? Well, thank you. That's good, thank you. Thanks a lot. Have you ever said to yourself, I'm sick of the government, I'm sick of the tax system, I'm sick of the fact you can't get a job in this country? Well, more Australians are, and they're heading overseas in increasing numbers to try and find work. More than 2 million Australians leave our shores each year, and as I say, a growing number of them are going for work prospects. Now, if you are trying to go overseas and find work, there are some procedures which you've got to follow. But we've got an expert who's got practical experience at finding jobs of all sorts overseas, who's going to help you to find a job when you go overseas. A few years ago, Karen Halliday threw in the 9-to-5 job and hit the road on a 4-year world holiday, working her way through the tulip fields, the ski slopes, the vineyards and cafes across the world. And now, Karen's passing her tips on to others who are keen to leave the domestic rat race behind. Is it one group of people in our society who do it more than others?
I think the younger people are willing to do everything, like fruit picking, cleaning, nannying, housemaid work, whereas older people are tending to look more so for the professional work and don't really want to be bothered with cleaning houses, etc.
Backpackers often rely on seasonal work, and finding out when to apply for those jobs is crucial. Hostels, tourist information centres, university notice boards and newspapers will keep you up to date. Now, knowing the language of the country you want to work in will boost your employment chances, and a good grasp of English could also be a money spinner.
She doesn't have any. Yeah. She's all out.
If you want professional work, you can line up a job before you go through international employment agencies or by contacting industry associations abroad. But even if you've secured a job before you leave, be prepared for the unexpected.
I'd always make sure I had my return flight out of the country I was going to. That can be a hazard. Even when the companies actually offer to pay your return flight, they can revoke that. And you're stuck in that country. That's frightening.
For long-term travellers, being broke and stranded in a foreign country is almost par for the course, but certainly it's not recommended. Now, according to Karen, you should always travel with enough money to see you through 2 months, just in case you can't get work. And beware, while you might be able to live on $1,500 for a couple of months in Asia, it won't go far in Europe, so prepare yourself for the peaks and troughs in the cost of living. Are there any tips you've got for people in trying to look after their financial affairs?
Yes, what I suggest is that they usually take 3 forms of money, a little bit of cash, a traveller's cheques and also a credit card of some nature. That way you've got 3 support systems. I'd always make sure that you have, overseas you have references from your bank in Australia if you're planning a working holiday. It's very difficult to open a bank account while you're travelling if you don't have those references.
And you'll have to decide where you want to pay tax. The tax office might decide that because your house and possessions remain in Australia, you should pay tax here. But if you're a non-resident of Australia, then you can take advantage of some of the cheaper tax rates which are levied overseas. You should also try to spread your income over 2 tax years by travelling in December. Now, this way the savings for a typical tax earner can be in the thousands. The other thing also is trying to figure out visas and so forth. Is that an easy thing for people to do?
No, it is not that easy. The best advice there is to contact the consulate, because the rules do tend to change on a regular basis, and that way they're not going to get into any trouble.
Before we go...
Now in GMA, we're going to talk about Workaway Guide, and this is really a terrific guide for anybody who intends going overseas and wants to do it on the cheap. The author of this book, Halliday, she in 1987 decided to go away for 4 months and stayed away for 4 years. Please welcome her to GMA. Hi, Karen. So what happened? How did 4 months extend to 4 years?
Well, I ran out of money in the first few days and had to get a job, and it just snowballed from there, meeting people.
Of all the exotic places that you see around the world, and if you want to do it on the cheap, particularly if you're young, I suppose there really are lots and lots of tips you can pass on. When you're going through a place, for example, Greece, which is a very popular spot for most tourists, what are the things that you need to keep in mind?
I think that you're actually looking out for accommodation depends on... We tend to love to have views and the atmosphere and things like that. Don't get too carried away with the prices. You can go and sit in cafes later on and enjoy the beautiful views. You don't have to pay for the expensive accommodation.
And use your digs basically as a place to sleep.
That's it, and you're not there very often.
Tell us about Turkey, because it's a place I've never seen and it fascinates me.
Turkey was, for me, something that I'd seen pictures of years ago and thought, oh, I want to go there. And it's like being on the moon, sort of, especially in areas like Cappadocia. It tends to be just a daunting, eerie feeling that you get. It's amazing country, beautiful.
The people?
People were lovely, very warm. I'd heard such terrible things about how they were going to treat me, and they were gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
What about local hospitality? Do they invite you to their place?
Yes, they do. They do. I don't think it happens as much as some other countries. They are a little bit cautious, but I was treated very well, definitely.
And when you're in a place like Turkey and you're seeing all the magnificence of the country itself, what about things like medical aid? Is it worthwhile always trying to find out exactly what's going to be available if the dark side happens, if you take ill?
Yeah, I think the thing is that you usually do know where the consulates are when you actually arrive in the country.
Good?
They are. And I think that if there's not an Australian consulate at hand, we tend to revert to the British consulate. I found they've been helpful too.
You worked with Brian Brown and Rachel Ward for a while?
I did, yeah. It was
How'd
great.
that come about?
That was actually working at a manor for Rachel's parents. They were lovely people.
I believe the manor is just absolutely beautiful.
It was majestic. I've never envisaged that I'd ever be in a place like that. I know I was working.
Whereabouts is it?
It's actually in the Cotswolds, up in the Cotswolds. Beautiful area with your picket fences, and although they didn't have the picket fence.
Didn't need to.
No, they had a majestic house. It was...
Will you go again?
Overseas, definitely. I think I've got the bug.
And do it this way?
Not at this stage, no. I did it for 4 years, and then I actually went back last year and worked abroad again just to make sure that it's all happening and it's still the same, and also to produce the video to show the visual side of things.
It's a great guide. It's called Workaway Guide, and this morning we've met Karen Halliday, responsible for same. And good luck on the next trip.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. This is Good Morning Australia. Over to you, Moira.
There's one fashion...
Welcome back to Hobart. It's been said that we all have a book inside us, but few people ever get around to putting pen to paper. Well, a lot of manuscripts never see the light of day because authors are just too afraid of getting a rejection slip. Howard Gibbs looks at one way budding authors can get into print without having to worry about what anyone else thinks.
Then it hit me. About 15 miles west of Victor Harbour, a 30 to 40 knot northerly came in with a bang.
Don't forget to carry your little piece of paper with the conversion rates.
I asked politely where the office of the commandant was, and he pointed to the end of the corridor.
They've done what so many just dream about, written a book and had it published.
If you had told me that I would end up writing a book, I would have said, no way, it won't happen. I didn't think it was possible for me to be able to do something like that.
Bill Richards' work usually puts people to sleep. He's an anaesthetist, but his real passion is flying helicopters, so he wrote One Man's Aerial Adventure, guaranteed to stop you nodding off.
I never thought I'd see my name on the front of the book. Perhaps there is a book in everybody, and I think I would probably like to write another one.
Doesn't matter where his next book goes. His publisher, Pat Woolley, vows to print it.
Anyone can publish a book. Anyone who can write or anyone who can draw.
Her company, Fast Books, specialises in small runs, using the latest desktop publishing technology. The catch is, you pay for the publishing, but then whatever you make from sales is yours to keep. If you never sell even one copy, then at least you've accomplished something.
That's, I guess, what we have to remember about a book. It's imagination, it's writing, it's literature, it's moving things on, it's all those good things that books are.
The nuts and bolts of laying a book out is about the hardest part of the process. A 3-hour seminar teaches the basics, then it's all up to you to deliver the words.
You can print 50 or 100 books. You can do that many. And if it's a target market, those are exactly the types of things that do very, very well self-publishing.
Karen Halliday got rejection slips from the conventional publishers. They thought her Workaway Guide was a fizzer. Now it's in its 3rd reprint. She estimates 10,000 travellers have bought it.
What was the hardest part of the whole process?
Actually getting the confidence up to go it on my own, because the actual publishers just were not interested.
And I suppose you can thumb your nose now at those big publishers who you knew wouldn't handle it.
Everyone that turned around and said it would never work, I can. All the people, it's great. I enjoy that part of it, definitely. Persistence beats resistance, and I proved them wrong.
Eva Nagler's story, Massacre on the Baltic, was bottled up inside her for 50 years. She's a Holocaust survivor, and she saw her own sister and countless others murdered in front of her.
I said to myself, if you survive the war, you have to write about it, to let the world know what the Germans did to us.
The horror she's lived since then was rarely spoken about, but quite recently she bought a computer so she could tell the world. Suddenly, it was all down there in print.
It's cost you about $40 a copy overall.
$41, yes.
Has it been worth it?
Oh yes, oh yes. I'm selling it for much less, but I don't mind losing money on it.
Bill Richards' one man's dream is going for $20. He says the other chopper pilots and medical colleagues are the main buyers.
And are you making a profit or loss on that?
Small profit.
Will it make you rich?
No, but it'll make me happy.
There may well be a story worth publishing in all of us, but the process of setting it down has been likened to getting blood out of a stone. Creative torment for most authors. But this way, there's a guaranteed book at the end, whatever their motivation or talent.
For me to put this many words on paper was a major chore. It took many months to get that many words together, yeah.
It was hard. It was exciting though, and I think now I can look back and there was a lot of things that I did do that weren't necessary.
I enjoyed very much writing it. The words just flowed.
Howard Gibbs there with the growing popularity of self-publishing. That's all we've got for you tonight from Hobart. I hope it's warm where you are. We can thaw ourselves out. We'll see you back here tomorrow night. Good night.
Hello everyone out there, welcome to the show. We're having a very interesting evening tonight, and my name is Gilly Aliotti. I'm about to introduce you to a wonderful and very extremely interesting person, Karen Halliday. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you, Gilly.
Now, you went overseas for a 4-month holiday and returned 4 years later. What on earth happened?
Lots of fun. No, I actually went over planning to travel for 4 months and got caught up with working abroad and meeting people from all different cultures and had lots of fun.
That's amazing. And you worked over there. What type of jobs did you do over there?
Everything from barmaid, secretarial, nanny, housemaid, fruit picking, etc., etc.
That's amazing. And was there anything that was interesting in the first part of your trip?
I think the most interesting part was the housemaid job.
Housemaid?
Yeah, housemaid. Interesting.
Why was that interesting?
Well, I was working in an English manor with Rachel Ward and Brian Brown's parents.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that fantastic? Did you get to meet them?
I did indeed.
Really?
Yeah, really nice couple.
And how did you get to meet them?
Well, they actually came over to visit for her sister's wedding, and they were there for a few months so it was good.
Wow, that's fantastic. And what other countries did you work in?
I actually worked in Brazil, I worked in Israel on a kibbutz.
A what? Excuse me, but for the viewers out there and for myself, I think we really need to know what this means. What is a kibbutz?
A kibbutz is basically communal living, where you have the manager 1 week working as the manager and the next week he may be washing dishes. Everyone rotates their jobs. You have accommodation provided, you have food provided for you, and also you have tennis court, swimming pool, gym.
Sounds like a holiday that I need.
It was. You worked rather hard, but it was good fun because you're working with people from all around the world. So it's exciting.
Now, you mentioned just before the kibbutz in Israel, Brazil. What did you do in Brazil?
In Brazil, I was actually visiting some friends and managed to get a job on a yacht. And what I had to do was walk along the beach and entice tourists onto the boat for their daily tours.
That's amazing. You've had some wonderful jobs. It's incredible. How did you get these jobs?
Australian persistence.
Persistence, yeah. Must have been fantastic for overseas people to be working with an Australian that was so eager to stay. Or in fact, did you stay on with them for very long? Different jobs?
I tended to be save up enough money to move on to the next place, or feel that I've really experienced this country and I'd like to move on, or hear of another country that was just as much fun, if not more.
That's amazing. Do you miss overseas?
I do indeed.
Yeah.
I miss the excitement and I miss meeting people.
Yeah.
I enjoy having a wardrobe where I can put my clothes, though.
Yeah.
And a bed to come home
and
to.
And a car and all those, and friends. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, since you've returned home, you've written this fantastic book called The Workaway Guide. We can get the camera on this. The Workaway Guide. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's actually a guide for Australians travelling abroad to help them organise it prior to leaving. It has over 200 contacts around the world for employment, so you can actually write to them in advance. And I've also incorporated in there handy hints and a London survival guide, because that tends to be where most people start.
That's fantastic. So you've got things like holiday camps and hotels, camp counsellors in America, fruit and vegetable picking and farming. Let's have a look. We've got teaching overseas, nannies, au pairs, oil rigs. What on earth is this? Oil rigging. Whereabouts can you get a job on an oil rig?
Off the English coast, actually. I was quite surprised. I wrote away to those companies as a male, 25 years of age, with experience in oil rigs, and would they be interested in seeing my resume? And they wrote back saying, yes, please.
Right.
Please do send your resume.
And I suppose that by getting this book, it'll give you that perfect indication on how to find work when you get there, or is it also valuable for if you want to find work from home?
It's available from Australia. The thing is that I think that you're better off organising your travels a little bit before you go, so you know what's available.
Yeah.
I think the handy hints in there is probably, say you decide to work in a particular country, like you might want to go and work in Germany. It tells you exactly what you can do in Germany. And you might want to go and work in Africa. It tells you what you can go and do in Africa. Not that you can do that much. It's usually voluntary work.
That's right. And have you had any, while you were over there working on the guide, thinking up the ideas while you're over there, did you have any bad experiences with work over there?
I had some terrible experiences, and I can look back and laugh at them now.
You probably sort of didn't put them in the book just in case.
No, I think one of the most horrific experiences was working in an English winter, picking asparagus. Freezing cold, raining, and you're sort of bending over for 8 hours a day to get paid something like $10, $20.
Right.
It was really hard work for very little money. I didn't last long. Sat down and had a Mars bar and thought, I'm out of here.
And did you think of the idea to write the guide when you're back home, or were you sort of thinking about that overseas?
All my friends overseas were constantly ridiculing me because I wrote everything down in a little black book, and said to me, surely when you get home you should write a book. And that's exactly what I decided to do.
I think it's an excellent idea. And I believe that you're off again.
I am. I'm heading overseas in July.
Ready to do the guide number 2, or expanding the same edition? What's the story?
It'll be an expanded edition, establishing a closer liaison with the agencies that I've recommended in London, and also to do a video on Australians working abroad.
Right. And where can you buy this guide?
It's available at most of the larger bookstores, or you can purchase it direct from me by sending a cheque or money order for $19.95 to PO Box 248 Bondi Junction.
Okay, that's PO Box 248 Bondi Junction 2022. That's right. And that's Workaway. For the Workaway Guide, $19.95, PO Box 248 Bondi Junction 2022. And otherwise at major
larger bookstores.
Right. Karen, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
You're one of the most thrilling people so far that I've been on the show. I haven't been on the show very long, but I'm sure that we'd like to see more of you when you come back from overseas. Tell us a little bit more about your travels.
If I make it.
No, you may never return. Okay, thanks very much. And we'll be back very soon to excite you and thrill you more on the latest ventures of entertainment and fun for the show tonight. Thanks very much.
If you have ever felt like tossing in the 9 to 5 and heading overseas, I'm about to show you how to turn your dreams into reality. Most travellers overseas start off with London, and why not? It's the hub of the working trail. I recommend Bayswater if you want to be where the action is. There are numerous hostels, restaurants and bars, and it is ideally situated, only a few minutes walk to Hyde Park and close to the famous West End. Covent Garden is a buzzing area day or night. It's packed with market stalls, elegant shops, famous restaurants and a colourful piazza with outdoor cafes. Here you can sit and watch the professional buskers or passers-by. The London Underground is the quickest and cheapest way to travel around London. You can save money by purchasing a weekly bus and train pass. I talked with many travellers working in London. Brian was temping as an accountant with Michael Page, and as a result had travelled quite extensively. Nikki was working at Carlton TV and was about to head off to work in the Italian ski fields with Crystal Holidays. Paul temped as a clerk until he landed a job filming for the ABC. One of the great British institutions is the pub, and it seems like there's one on every corner. Aussies and Kiwis not only have a good reputation for working behind the bars, but when the work has been done, it's time to party. This video is intended to give you a brief glimpse of the countless attractions and special charms of some fascinating destinations around the world. We start in Athens, the gateway to the Greek Isles. From the Acropolis, one of the world's most famous landmarks, you can see countless examples of this city's bustling present and past. Situated at the foot of the Acropolis is Plaka, the oldest section of Athens. With outdoor tavernas and live music, it's a great place to take some time out. When visiting the Greek Isles, Santorini is a must, with its plunging cliff faces and quaint whitewashed villages. The accommodation is relatively cheap, and Santorini has numerous cafes and restaurants, beckoning for you to take some time out and gaze over the sparkling blue seas. If you're wondering how you get to the top, there are 567 steps or a cable car. If sailing is your passion, the Aegean is your dream come true, a sailor's paradise for hundreds of years. Another favoured island is Ios. With a deceivingly quiet port, most backpackers head for the village at the top of the hill for cheap accommodation. The motto of the island is life's a party and everyone around the world's invited. The Greek Isles are very popular for bar and waitressing work, or alternatively visiting some of the larger marinas and sailing your way around may be your forte. A word of advice, don't travel to the Greek Isles during European holidays, as prices double. After Greece, why not cruise across to Turkey? The coastal resort of Kusadasi is one of the most popular ports along the Turkish coast. It is renowned for its Turkish baths, an absolute must, and of course the beaches. North of Kusadasi are the famous ruins of Ephesus, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Here you can sit in the famous amphitheatre, used today as it was in 117 AD, or walk along 2,000-year-old marble streets amid temples. A little advice, a guidebook can turn a pile of rubble into an interesting story. The pursuit of pleasure is hard to define. While some people might go into raptures about history, Others would far rather laze around on the beach from sunrise to